It's so nice to see you again and to reconnect. And I thought it was worth sort of hopping on to sort of circle back to a discussion that we had started just about, what is the point of somatic practice, if there is a point? Because I think often when we talk about either top-down approaches or bottom-up approaches, meditation being a top-down approach, somatics being a bottom-up approach, that a lot of us are our entry point is trying to control parts of ourselves or to get rid of unpleasant sensations, or thinking as regulation as a way to quote unquote feel calm, versus regulation meaning something completely different, which is having a calm center amidst curveballs, amidst life changes, and feeling a connection to competencies of resource to be able to adapt to those changes. So it made me think about this particular quote from Pema Chodron recently that really kind of was a signal for me in terms of the conversation around meditation and how uh, somatics can be a complement to the practice of meditation. She says meditation is about seeing clearly the body that we have, the mind that we have, the domestic situation that we have, the job that we have, and the people who are in our lives. It's about seeing how we react to all of these things. It's seeing our emotions and thoughts just as they are right now in this very moment, in this very room, on this very seat. It's about not trying to make them go away, not trying to become better than we are, but just seeing clearly with precision and gentleness. The problem is that the desire to change is fundamentally a form of aggression towards yourself. The other problem is that our hangups, unfortunately or fortunately, contain our wealth. Our neurosis and our wisdom are made out of the same material. If you throw out the neurosis, you also throw out the wisdom.
Wow.
So I'll just pause there, and I'd love to hear your reflection about that.
Well, I have so many thoughts. I love this quote so much, mostly because it really is not how I've been approaching meditation and spiritual practices for most of all this time, this decade plus that I've been in this world. I will admit that I have really thought of meditation and any other practice I'm doing as a way of kind of clearing out or changing for the better. And as this quote illustrates, that can be kind of a tricky path, right? There's kind of another side to that coin. And as much as I love what all of this is saying about meditation, it's also making me think a lot about how I first felt drawn to the somatic work that you share. Because when you first walked me through a series of somatic practices, I was very dysregulated in a really kind of acutely stressful situation. And the practices you walked me through did in fact feel like it was helping to clear that for me, because I was feeling the stuckness in my body, this kind of like a freeze state. And it did feel like, wow, after doing these practices, I have cleared that. I feel so much better. I got rid of, whatever I was holding in my body. And then I began to think, well, somatic practices are amazing because they help you clear whatever stress you're holding or whatever you have going on. And then as I talked to you more and learned from you more, it became very clear actually that it's not about clearing anything out, very much like this quote is saying. It's not about getting rid of anything in particular. So let me ask you, what is it about?
That's such a great question. I think about, even what you named, often when people engage with somatic practices, there is that ideation of, if I do this particular tool, it's a form of control to make X, Y, or Z go away. When really, what it's starting to highlight into presence is this very simple idea that the body is a being and not a thing. And when we can introduce, let's say, like a tool like pendulation, when we're introducing, a tool, a very simple tool such as pendulation, which is just sort of orienting a place within the body that's a different quality of energy or different quality of charge than, say like a contraction or a body bracing that's experienced during states of anxiety. What that's doing, the space of where a body can sort of pendulate or swing towards a vortex of healing versus a vortex of trauma or contraction or constriction, that space, the meaning of that space really is the container that allows the body to metabolize some of that response. So in that respect, the body is very alive. It's not us doing the healing. It's not us controlling the process. If anything, we're just sort of dropping these tools and starting to cultivate more relationship. And I would say the short answer to your question is somatics is relationship. It's starting to be in relationship to the wisdom of the body, which culturally, what we're conditioned out of is being away. And we have sites of shaping throughout our development, childhood into adult, to where we have certain things that are sort of nurtured or not allowed. And I think that sort of can sort of ingrain these, these sort of adaptations, if you will, within the body of how we respond in certain situations. A very common one is, working with anger. A lot of us, when we feel anger in the body, the teeth immediately clamp down. We start to have constriction because it's not appropriate to say something or to make a noise or to make a sound or to allow that that chemical response in the body to actually move through the body. So we have these patterned adaptations in the body. And really, when we're starting to work with somatics, we're starting to relearn something else. And at the end of the day, we become what we practice, right? So if we're practicing only finding regulation when we sit down to meditate for 20 minutes, then there's not much of an integration because we still have those patterned adaptations throughout the body. So when we start to engage with practices of somatics, we're starting to become alive and aware of those living systems within the body, which allows for more of a felt sense of embodied spirituality, for lack of a better word.
Wow. Yeah, it's almost like we're not trying to get rid of anything other than the conditioning that creates that maladaptive response in the first place. And right?
Yeah, it is. And I think it kind of circles back to what that quote was sort of highlighting, which is that the idea of gentleness.
Mm-hmm.
It is a way to meet the body, not to overwrite it, not to extract something from it, to be in relationship with that. And I think that creates the seeds for embodiment.